Hey everyone, it's Wolfran here, and today I'm going to be doing a video on really for the new players to the game, because in the corp I'm in, we get new players and they ask questions about ship fitting and all of those things, and the answer is sometimes a bit more complex than perhaps people want to hear. So I'm going to cover in this the very basics of ship fitting. This is not designed to be a video for advanced players who have been doing the game for a while and want to look at any particular ships. In specific ships, I will do videos on those ships that I fly and those sorts of things at some point soon. But really, this is to help new players understand fitting of ships, what ships do, and help them answer that question: is this a good fit? Um, and so, what we're going to start with is just get an idea. There are a lot of ships in this game. You can see them all in the ship tree. I am not going to talk about all the ships. Um, if we just jump back, see this is the ship tree. So you've got the four main Empire ships, and then you've got all the factions. These are the some of the factions. We haven't got Mordu's and Servants of Eve. All the Yang ships have got some prototypes, don't worry about that. And we've got the pirate faction ships here as well. But what we're going to focus on, we're going to focus on the basics. You're new to the game, you might be only getting to T4, 5 and 6, and you're looking at the different ships, how to fit them. And so first things first, we need to understand the different types of ships. I'm not going to go into loads of details, there are variations, but each is basically structured in the same way. We have here, down this very left hand side, frigates. These are all small ships, they are fast ships, and they don't have much ability to take damage. These are destroyers, and these are potentially the weakest at the moment in the game. They do have some problems, but if people want to use the destroyers, I'm not saying don't use them. But these are the destroyers, and they do various different things. But those are destroyers. They're meant to be in between frigates and cruisers, and then cruisers. You'll see lots of people might rock Omens. The Marla is a very popular early ship to use. So those are cruisers. Then we have battle cruisers, and they are heavier. They can either do more damage or they can take a lot more damage than cruisers. There's a battle cruisers, and these are battleships, and you need to be Tech 9 in order to get these battleships up here. So that's the tech levels down the side. Those are the different types of ships you're looking at, and each of the empires, I'll just quickly show you, have the same layout, same idea. Frigates, these are Caldari frigates. Destroyers, cruisers, battle cruisers, battleships. We haven't got Tech 10 yet, but it doesn't matter, we're looking at new stuff, so you'll be looking at stuff low down in the tech tree, and that's absolutely fine. So when you're looking at different ships, that's where you're going to start looking. Now, ships each have their own role bonuses, so they get extra bonuses. You can get skills which make your ships better, do things better. So you can look at frigate command, that'll make things go faster. You can look at electronics engineering, like frigate engineering, gives you more capacitor and power grid. I'll explain what those are in a moment. And you can increase like small weapons if you're going to use frigates, which use small weapons, and again I'll go into some detail about that. So there's skills that make ships better, but the ships themselves have bonuses. And the way you find out about a ship's bonuses, if you have the ship, you can look at it in the dock here, you click on it like that, and ship info. That's one way of looking. And the other way of looking is if you're looking at buying a ship, you can go to the ship tree and go, maybe you want a caracal. So if I click on the caracal, it gives me all the ship info. And if you want all the ship info, you click on these three dots next to basic info, and it'll give you the full ship details, trait descriptions, attributes fitting, all the details you need about the ship. And again, we're not going to go a huge amount into these things. I'll do some detailed videos, but this so you know that this stuff's here to help you make decisions. And you can, if you look at the ship info, what it tells us is that we get little info about ship traits. So this, looking at it, tells me this is actually the symbol for railguns, and this is the symbol for armor. So, and again, I'll explain what those things mean in a moment. And it gets bonuses. So for every of my skills of medium railgun operation bonus, that's one of the skills. You can have 5 of them. I get plus 5% damage, plus 5% tracking speed, so that I can get 25% top up to medium railguns. So that tells you something about the ship and the type of weapons the ship uses. You don't have to use railguns, but if you do use medium railguns, you get more damage. And then the cruiser command bonus, here I do have 5 out of 5. I get plus 25%, that's 5% per level, of an inertial modifier, meaning I turn quicker. And so then it gives you some basic details. It tells us what the armor resistance is, because the ship's an armor ship. If you had a shield ship, it would show you what the shield resistances are for the ship. Those are what come with the ship. So what we can do is we can go look at fitting. There's nothing fitted here. And what we're looking at here are you get 4 what are called high slots. You get this is the Thorax prototype. It's a cruiser. It's a prototype cruiser you can get early on. So you get 4 high slots. You get 2. These are called mid slots. This is a drone bay for a drone. You get drones on the cruisers, the battle cruisers and the battleships. Everyone has a drone bay. And then only the specialist frigate and the specialist destroyers have drones. Otherwise they don't have them as standard. So you can normally put 1 or 2 drones on a cruiser, depending on what the cruiser and battle cruiser are. And then you have 4 low slots. Now, basically what changes between different types of ships are the numbers of high slots, the numbers of middle slots, and the numbers of low slots. That's what changes. So you can have a battleship might have 6, 7, or even 8 high slots. A frigate is going to maybe have 2 low slots, 1 mid slot, 2 high slots. So it depends on the ships. Just because more doesn't mean it's better, it just means it does different things. And so when you're looking at fitting it, this is one of the first things you'll have to look at is what does the ship meant to do, what can I fit, and the amounts I can fit. And the other half of the coin is if you click on this little spanner, it'll show you that these are rigs fitting slots. So you can put in rigs. You've got 2, I forget what they call them, combat rigs, and you get 2 engineering rigs. And how these all divide up is what they do. See, at the moment I can do 0, and the high slots, these are weapon slots. These are what you put in here. There are some specialist ships that do other things. We're not looking at those. So for the majority of ships you're looking at, these high slots, they're weapon slots. If I click on one, this is what I've got in my inventory, and I can put whatever weapon I want on. Now, I don't have any railguns. I'm going to look at a different ship to give you an example, but I can put actually any weapon on. That's fine. I can put on, well, sorry, I do have medium railguns. There we go. These Caldari medium railguns. So I can put these on. So the ship is designed to have these guns on, and then it shows me details. It tells me that I've got no skills in railguns. So if you've got skills, you'll get better DPS than this. If I put these ones on, I'll get 146 DPS, and you see it'll show me if I unfit one, the DPS will change to show me what the DPS is of what's currently fitted. So these are always your weapon slots. I'm going to unfit these because I do not want to keep the ship fitted. And then these are your mid slots. Now your mid slots are generally your E-war slots. So those are modules that do electronic warfare. And there's lots of different choices here. You can have, as you can see, a medium energy Nosferatu that drains capacitor away from your enemy and gives it to you. You can have a warp disruptor that stops your enemy from warping away. I'm not going to get into the issues about points and all those things, but that's what it does. You may need more than one in order to do warp disruption of someone effectively. the stasis webifier you can put on, that slows enemies down. The warp scrambler stops people warping away and stops micro warp drives, but has less of a range than this. And there's lots of other, there's lots of other E-War you can put in. So those are your E-War slots, and this one gets 2. And then on the low slots, these slots generally either make your ship go faster, give you more armor, tank, or shield, or give your weapons more damage. So I could put in a shield module, that's a shield extender, or I could put in a shield, shield repper. I could put in a micro warp drive. I can put in an afterburner. This is a cap battery that can do other things. This is a shield hardener that increases the resistances. I don't think I've got many armor stuff, so we can just do it with shields for the time. This is an armor ship, so I can see that if I click on defense, it shows me there's 4,027 shield hit points, but there's 4,665 armor hit points, and then you've got structure hit points a lot there as well. But the most are armor, and when you've got the most, that's generally what the ship is. So this is an armor tank. So generally you will want to put armor repair modules on this if you want to rep it. And so that's your choices. You can make the ship do more damage by putting some sort damage mod on, or you can put a armor repper, armor hardener, which increases the resistances, which means you reduce the amount of damage you're taking, or an armor repper which repairs the amount of hit points you have. Or you can put a cap battery on, and I'm going to talk about capacitor because that's one of the options here. Is your capacitor, and as you see, I have 100%, so I'm totally stable on a capacitor, and I'm going to show you a different ship in a second. The capacitor, see this line here. If I put a module, I didn't mean to do that. If I put a module in, say I put a micro warp drive in. This line here goes to blue. This is your power grid. So each module takes an amount of power grid. It tells you here, power grid requirement 170 megawatts. And that's the amount it's taken out of my power grid to put this on. So that limits the amount of modules you can put on. I can't put, if I try to put a large module on, let's see if I've got a large lying around. So I find out I don't have any large modules. Yeah, if I put on a Sheriff Shield extender, let's see what happens. I can just about fit it, but if I try and fit all the other things that need, you see, I've run out of units, so I can't run my weapons at all if I've got that module on, so I could fit just that. So generally you can't put oversized modules. The cruiser is a medium ship, you're going to put on medium modules. There are differences, but just starting out, think of it that way. A frigate is a small ship, you're going to put on small modules. A battle cruiser is a larger ship that can sometimes have a mix. A battleship is a large ship, it's going to take large modules, large weapons, large mids, large bottoms. So that's what you're going to have to choose from in terms of how you fit something. And then in terms of the rigs, the low slot rigs, I haven't got many rigs lying around, are either for damage, they increase the amount your weapons do, or you put a rig in which will increase the amount of armor hit points or the shield hit points, so it increases your tank. The engineering rigs either make your ship fly faster or give you more capacitor, because we talked about power grid, but capacitors are important when I'm using the modules. So power grid is about how many modules I can put on, but if I look at this, it will also tells me the power grid activation cost here is 1199 gigajoules. So every time I turn this on, and I can turn it on every 60 seconds, it's going to cost 1199 gigajoules to run the large shield extender. And what it tells me here is if I do that and I run the micro drive at the same time, so whatever I've got fitted, if I've got it all running at the same time, my capacitor will run out in 1 minute 25 seconds. And your capacitor shows you my recharge rate, so this is pretty bad. It means that if I get into a prolonged combat, I'm going to run out very fast, and that's because I'm using a large shield extender. And you can see all of these things if I just undock how they look, and then we'll compare it to a fitted ship. This is what all these lines here are. So on the left hand side here, on the very outside, that's your shield hit points. The middle is your armor hit points, and the last is your hull. And you really don't want to be getting into your hull. If you lose all your hit points, obviously your ship blows up. So this is an armor tank. So if I was tanking armor, you might be taking damage and repairing damage, and this will go up and down. This on the right hand side is very important. This is your capacitor. So if I use modules on my ship, my capacitor goes down. So as you saw with all those modules I had on, if I used it in a minute, my capacitor would run out. It recharges slowly over time, but that's not what you want if you want to have it for prolonged engagements. Perhaps if you're doing a lot of PvP and you plan to only be engaged for a very short period of time, you might be able to have a lower capacitor. So you don't have to have a stable capacitor when you're fitting your ship, but you need to think about what impact the modules have on your capacitor, how long you can use it, what you're going to use it for. I'm going to show you that in terms of fitting. So I've got other ships in my hangar. So this Stabber fleet issue, I do have skills into cruisers, I do have skills into cannons. This is one of the ships I like to use. If we go to fitting, I haven't got everything mounted on it. So I've got strike cannons mounted. I've got one Weber fire at the moment, so I've been messing around with it. But let's put in. So a medium Nosferatu will help with my capacitor because it gives me capacitor whilst taking someone else's away. And I could put on, let's say, a scrambler. So that's often a pretty reasonable fit for a general ship. I'm shield tanking this ship. So what I've got is two adaptives. So if I turn these on, and I'll show you again the impact of these things, I'm just going to put on a medium afterburner. Yep, there we go. So as you see, my power grid is almost full. So it's something to bear in mind. This is a fit I would use for PvE because it's designed to take damage. I'm doing damage at range, not a huge amount of damage, but not bad for a cruiser. And in terms of rigs, what I've got down here is this is a rig which increases the amount of damage I do. So the damage bonus 12.5%, cannon collision accelerator. You can get higher tier rigs that give you more damage, but they cost you more risk. And I've got a anti-EM screen which increases my shield resistances. So if you look at my shield, what happens is I've got 5,174 in my shield hit points. You see that's the most. That's been boosted because I've got these things in, and also my resistances, so I take less damage coming in. My capacitor is 2 minutes 43 seconds, so if I ran everything on the ship, I'd run out in 2 minutes and 43 seconds. I'm okay with that because I'm not going to run everything. Because it depends on your playstyle how you're going to do it. I don't need stable, because if I wanted stable, as you see, I've put in a free capacitor control circuit, but I could put a more expensive one in. And I've got an auxiliary thruster which makes my ship go faster. But I could put other things in, stuff that makes my afterburner burn less energy. I could put in a semiconductor memory cell which makes my capacitor bigger. The capacitor control circuit makes my capacitor recharge quicker. So these are all different choices you need to make. There's no right answer. There's no best fit. I'm sure people will say this is not a great fit, but it's not about being a great fit or a best fit. It's about what you want it to do. I want this to rat at distance and be relatively safe. That's what I'm going to use it for. So if I undock this ship,
undocking.
And this is a way you can test your fittings. Let's just zoom in. A bit of traffic outside of Cheetah. So if I click on this and go back to fitting, gives you again all the information you need about your fitting, and we're going to look at defense because that's where I've got a lot of these modules here. So we just remember this: we've got 5,174 shield hit points, and these are our resistances: 41, 20, 40, and 50. So if I activate these modules now, so they're now burning and they're costing me capacitor. You have to remember my capacitor will only run out if I'm using everything, and I may not be using everything. Sorry, wrong one. And now we can look at my defense. It's jumped up in total, but crucially that's because my resistances have jumped up. So what's that? Effective hit points have jumped up, but because my resistances have jumped up, that's no longer 41%. That's now 73%. So I'm getting rid of 73% of the EM damage. I'm getting rid of 64% of the thermal damage. I'm getting rid of 73, 77. Those were much lower than here. So that makes me tankier, so I can do it. And then if I take some damage and a shield needs repairing, I can pop my shield repairer. I may only have to pop it for a little bit to pop up my shield. If I run my afterburner, see I've got my afterburner running now, I can go check that in my fittings. So there's under navigation. It now tells me that if I'm moving, I will move at 1222 meters a second. It's pretty fast for a cruiser. Means I can orbit fast and do a bit of speed tanking. I've got decent range on my weapons. Optimal range is 23, so I'm doing maximum damage within 23 kilometers if I'm within 23 kilometers target. And I continue doing damage up to 50% damage. Put these numbers together, that makes 56 kilometers out, probably a little bit more, 57 kilometers out. I'm still doing 50% of my total damage. So that's the basics of what fitting a ship is. But the question is, what's the best fit? I get asked that, a decent amount by people and to use the games. I can understand, but there's so many choices, there's so many options that it can be confusing, and I entirely get that. But there's no easy answer. You can ask in chat and go, what about this fit or what about that fit? The answer really is, there aren't that many wrong answers. There are wrong answers. Don't get me wrong. There are bad ideas, but there are also good ideas. But rarely is there, this is the fit to have. Because the answer will always be, it depends. Because I fit this ship thinking about, I want it for going to do PvE, I want it for ratting. But I may not want to do that. I might want to do something like PvP in a Stammer Fleet issue. Good ship, goes very fast, and I want it to reach its target quickly and get out quickly. So what I might do is go, well, actually I'll use the medium autocannons, much shorter range, so I've got to be up close with someone, I've got to brawl with them. I might then think, well, I might want to change these out because I don't want them to get away. I might want to run 2 interruptive warp disruptors. I might want to run 2 webs because I want to slow them down. I might think, well, I don't need the medium energy Nosferatu, it's not going to take away the capacitor quick enough, so I'll run 2 of those. These can all be swapped out and changed because it's situational. Again here, I might go, well, for PvE, I want an afterburner because I just want to keep it on, fly around quickly, but it's not quick enough for PvP. For PvP, I want to get in quick, engage the target, and get out fast. So I might go and put a medium micro warp drive in, which means I can't run it. And so you can see, you might come against this. I could change rigs around to deal with that. Might have to drop various different things. And I might go, well, I anticipate because I've got a micro warp drive, I'm going to orbit close. I actually don't need 2 shield hardeners, I'm worried about my cap, and so I'm going to put a cap battery on, which I think might fix my power grid problem. No, it doesn't quite. Which means, I can bring myself closer to stable. It isn't actually stable if that was up and running. You got to remember, strike cannons take a lot of power. There you go. and that gives you a different loadout. Is it better? Is it worse if I had all autocannons? No, it's just different. So it's doing something different. If I put all autocannons in here and still had the other loadout I had before, I could be a brawling PvE. I could do it for PvP. So think about what you're going to use the ship for and then build it, rather than saying what's the best fit. Because my answer to most people is, what do you want to use it for? And it can be seen in the smaller ships, because someone might go, well, yeah, what do you want to move? What do I want to move cargo around, small cargo around for? And I use my H1 interceptor because it's not affected by warp bubbles. But all these, well, the important thing is this: everything else is irrelevant to me because I'm not going to use it to fight anything. And what I've got it set up as, I've got some awful build, I think, in weapons, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to shoot anything. I've just thrown those in. Does barely any DPS anyway. But the crucial thing is I put in these inertial stabilizers. That makes it turn faster. That means it can align faster. It gives me a warp prep time of 1.2 seconds. So it makes it very difficult to lock on and target my ship. And that's really what I want. But I also want space in this ship. So I've got a bunch of expensive cargo rigs. These make my cargo hold bigger. I don't put anything else in, so I'm not going to waste money on it. So this is designed in order to move my stuff around, and with my cargo rigs in, I get almost 800 cubic meters of cargo space. It's great for a frigate. Great for a frigate that doesn't need to bother with warp bubbles, and I can just AFK into nullsec with it. So that's what I designed it for, but it's not designed for fighting. So you see, you can fit ships in a different way. This is my fast running encounter ship, the Cinnaball. Fantastic ship. And you can see its bonuses are warp speed and warp acceleration, which means it flies around between gates and between systems really fast. So it means I can do the news encounters as fast, and I get extra damage. I get extra tracking and accuracy fall off. And my build is set around those things. It's what's called a brawling build. I do it very close up, so I want maximum amount of damage. I'm doing 980 DPS, 947 on the cannons. I'm running 3 Nosferatus because when I'm running the news missions, I just don't see the point of running anything else. You could put in 2 stasis webifiers if you wanted. You could put in some other things. It doesn't really matter for what I want to use it for, so just put those in. I've got a afterburner, so I can retain a high navigation speed. These modules make my weapon boost, and then I do a bit of armor hardening and a bit. This is a large shield repair, so when I need to repair my shield, I just tick this up once. I'm not capacitor stable, but I've got 5 minutes on my capacitor. Well, with energy Nosferatus help a lot with that, and that's really just so I can engage for the encounters, and my point is I get there quickly. I can do a lot of damage if I activate my modules. These modules, I get something close to battleship DPS. I'm starting to knock on 1600 DPS for the time those are active. And then in terms of rigs, these are all damage rigs. I need to put 3s in so I'll get even more DPS, but they're really expensive. And then I've got speed rigs. That makes me turn faster, that makes me go faster, and that one makes me go faster. So that's all that this is built for. Going fast, engaging, brawling, getting your business done. Now you could turn this into a PvE ship. Cinnaball's a great PvE ship. And you'd probably use the same weapons, but you'd probably change the mid slots. You might put in a couple of stasis webfires and a warp disruptor. I'd be tempted to take out my damage mod and increase my tank. I might increase my tank a lot, change it into a micro warp drive. Again, I might even be tempted to change the rigs if I was on a PvP, because I might take out some of these damage, accept lower damage but longer tank, because I'm looking at survivability. So these are the things you've got to think about when you're fitting a ship. There is no right answer. I think there are wrong answers in fitting ships, and there's different things you can do. So this is my Dominic's, which I run something like Bad Hair Day in. And that's what it's designed for. It's designed to do the most DPS. So I'm not expecting to deal with anything else. I have a Dominic's in nullsec, which I run differently. And this one I've got large cannons, strike cannons on because they've got huge range. I generally run the sentry drones because they've got large damage, long range. As you see, my total damage is at 1300. If I activate these damage amplifiers, I can basically keep one running at all times. That makes it 1600. If I activate two at the same time, it makes it almost 2000. The stasis of weather fires, I've got 3 in case anything does get close. That brings it to a standstill. I've got micro warp drive just so I can get around quickly and pick up loot, because otherwise it is really boring. And then I've got everything here is about damage, and everything here is about capacitor. So targeting, so I can target things quickly, and then just 2 capacitor extenders. My capacitor, if I run everything, lasts 4 minutes, but I rarely run everything, so I rarely run the micro warp drive, because it's all about making sure you're in position. So you see, that's my point. This is how you fit ships in this game. Is you got to think about what do you want to use, what are your skills used for, what does the ship do, what do you want to use it for, and then build the fitting around that. By all means, share fittings, talk to people, but it's not always best to ask people what's the best fitting, is this the right fitting, because it's not going to help them answer the question. The better way to put it is, I want to use my Stabber fleet issue to do ratting. What do you suggest the best fit for that is? And then people understand what you're using your ship for, what you want to get out of it, and then they may even come back and say, well, do you want a kite, meaning do you want to sit at long range and do more damage at long range, keeping yourself relatively safe? Or do you want to brawl, which means fighting up close, taking more damage, tanking it, but also fighting in that way? And again, those two things. So even if you want to do that, now I didn't intend this to be confusing. I hope it's not confusing, but I just wanted to clarify for new players. There are lots of options. That's what makes the game great. It can seem daunting, but just focus. If you're starting out brand new, you just look at frigates. This is like the most basic frigate you can get. But even that tells you information about this is the Tech 1 frigate. It's an armor tank. It uses rails. You get railgun bonus on small railguns. Scan resolution. Fitting. Well, we've got 1 high slot. We've got no mid slots. We've got 2 low slots. And as you see, I've got it fit out. It can do almost no damage, but there we go. So it's got a weapon. This is from, I think, when you start the game. I don't think I've ever changed it. This ship doesn't take any rigs, but everything's built to its strengths. So it's got a railgun because it gets a railgun bonus. It's got an armor repairer because it gets an armor. Because it's an armor tank. It's got an afterburner because I'm using it for a bit of speed because it's a frigate. So everything makes sense, but it just scales up from here. So hopefully that was helpful for people to understand how fitting works. I will go into more detailed fitting guides as to various ships to think about it, but it's just a starting point for understanding how ships are fit in Eve Echoes and to help people get to grips with that. So if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe and all those things. It's a huge support to the channel. Thanks a lot.